You mentioned the use of incendiary candles that were used. Is an authorization required to use them? Was it permitted to use them? And are there any safety guidelines regarding these candles in public and enclosed spaces like this bar? And finally, the last question. There are reports saying that the emergency exit in the basement was blocked. Do you have any information on this matter?
Birthday candles that you can buy in a store. We all have access to them. As for whether it is possible to use them in a closed or confined space, the investigation is ongoing on this matter and an answer will be provided.
It is quite possible that within the premises of the bar there is certain something that does not adhere to the established recommendations.
You still see quite a lot that young people are now more on their phones than helping. Or that's everyone's responsibility.
What was meant to be a night of celebration has become a national reckoning. Switzerland, known for precision, safety, and order, is now facing anger, grief, and uncomfortable questions after a New Year's celebration descended into horror. 40 people are dead, 119 are injured, and a country is demanding answers. The tragedy unfolded in the early hours of New Year's Day at La Constellation, a luxury ski resort bar packed with young revelers from across the world. Music, champagne, celebration, until flames tore through the venue in seconds. Eyewitnesses and online videos suggest sparklers attached to champagne bottles ignited the ceiling. What followed was chaos. Now, Swiss authorities are under intense scrutiny. At a tense press briefing in Sion, reporters openly challenged officials, accusing them of mistakes, negligence, and a failure to ask the most basic safety questions. Why were sparklers allowed inside an enclosed bar? Was there authorization? Were safety guidelines ignored? And perhaps most troubling, was an emergency exit blocked in the basement? When officials finally acknowledged that sparklers could have triggered the blaze, the room fell silent, then erupted with follow-ups. "These are candles," said Valais Attorney General Beatrice Pilaud, describing the sparklers as items anyone could buy in a store. But when pressed on whether they were permitted in confined public spaces, she offered no clear answer. That response only fueled public outrage. Reporters pushed harder, asking whether fire protection officers had been consulted, whether authorities themselves had made mistakes, and what checks had been carried out before the celebration. Again, the answer was the same.
You spoke about identifying the injured, but not necessarily about identifying those who have died. Out of the 40 people who died, have any of them been identified? The second question. You mentioned the use of incendiary candles that were used. Is an authorization required to use them? Was it permitted to use them? And are there any safety guidelines regarding these candles in public and enclosed spaces like this bar? And finally, the last question. There are reports saying that the emergency exit in the basement was blocked. Do you have any information on this matter?
Thank you. There you go, thank you, sir. Regarding the identifications, apparently I wasn't clear enough, but in any case, I will repeat what I said earlier. In my opinion, they are clear enough for you to understand them a second time. Regarding the deceased, I said earlier that at this stage we regret to report 40 victims, and their identification is continuing relentlessly. I am happy to repeat to you that this is the absolute priority of the cantonal police. So we are still in the process of establishing the formal and definitive identities according to the procedures that have just been explained to you. My Colonel, Head of the Judicial Police. I hope I have answered your question. Thank you, sir.
If I may, I would like to return to the subject of the flares or Bengal lights. These are birthday candles that you can buy in a store. We all have access to them. As for whether it is possible to use them in a closed or confined space, the investigation is ongoing on this matter and an answer will be provided. Thank you. Sandro, indeed. Yes.
Julian from Blick. I really tried to contact the individual Nicolas Ferro. It is quite possible that within the premises of the bar there is certain something that does not adhere to the established recommendations. But there are also people who want to control the situation. Why isn't the esteemed president of the Concontan municipality present here today? And my second important question is, isn't it quite straightforward to ask those individuals who are directly responsible for fire protection? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. President Nicolas Ferro was not invited today because he was present on the day of the meeting. He had the wonderful opportunity to thoroughly answer all your important questions. Today we can certainly answer all your pressing questions and provide comprehensive details. Regarding the protection of human rights and the evidence, as I mentioned earlier, all of this is being examined. And now, at this precise moment in time, it is still a bit too early to provide you with a truly correct and entirely reliable answer to your question.
The anger is rising, and the questions are getting sharper. At a tense press briefing in Sion, as reporters pressed in, Swiss authorities rejected claims that people filming the inferno had directly hindered emergency responders, but their words carried an unmistakable rebuke. Valais Attorney General Beatrice Pilaud confirmed that while emergency services were not physically blocked, many bystanders chose to record, not respond.
Were there onlookers, so in French, that's badauds, who hindered the emergency services? And there were people filming outside while others were dying. How do you assess that? Well, you also have to consider the situation. It's January 1st. January. There are a lot of people in Gramotana. It's almost like a big city. So the crowd, that's just how it is anyway. I haven't heard that the emergency services were prevented or obstructed. And unfortunately, I don't remember the second part of the question. What was it? People were filming outside. What do you think about that? Well, people were filming outside. We've seen quite a lot of such videos on social media. It's the responsibility of anyone, of everyone who makes such videos. You could also see that. You still see quite a lot that young people are now more on their phones than helping. Well, that's everyone's responsibility.
As grief turns into rage, Swiss authorities were also confronted over claims that families were left in the dark after the deadly ski resort bar disaster. Reporters spoke of a complete lack of information, describing relatives desperate and searching for answers about the fate of their loved ones. Attorney General Beatrice Pilaud defended the response, insisting officials would release only verified facts, not assumptions. Hospital Director Eric Bonvin acknowledged that authorities could not immediately confirm who had died, who was treated elsewhere, or who remained unidentified. For families waiting and fearing the worst, the silence was devastating.
You, Madam Prosecutor, you said that both managers had been interviewed. Could you specify for us under what status? We would also like to know if you have the exact number of people who were present in the bar that night. You also mentioned those incandescent candles. Is that the main hypothesis at the moment? And finally, a question perhaps more for you, Mr. Bonvin. We've been able to speak with quite a few families who tell us there's been a total lack of information. So what do you have to say about that? Thank you.
So, if I may, I'll start by answering regarding the managers who have currently been interviewed as persons called upon to provide information. As for the exact number of people present, it's not possible at this stage to give you an answer. I'm going to be transparent with you. I don't even know if it will be possible to have an exact answer at the end of the investigation. Quite simply because it's a bar, people come and go. So even at the very moment of the fire, it will probably not be possible to answer your question. As for a smoldering candle, that's a hypothesis that is being favored and seems to be confirmed. I'd like to, I'll let Professor Bonvin answer if he wishes, but I'd also like to clarify something regarding the information being shared. Those who attended the 3 press conferences will have noticed that all information and communication went exclusively through, at the very least, the 4 people who were systematically present at all 3 press conferences. So all communication must be carried out in a controlled and secure manner, and also in a way that is consistent with the interests and respect for the families as well. That is precisely why we absolutely do not make any assumptions whatsoever. We don't. When we say something, when we talk about the number of injured, when we speak, it's truly a fact that has been established. 2 people were called upon to provide their information. I answered you first.
However, it's clear that we couldn't respond to the family's concerns regarding whether someone had died or not, or if they had been taken care of elsewhere. We couldn't know that either. It wasn't our responsibility. But what I can say is that at the hospital level, the information that was continuously transmitted to families strictly concerned the care of the people we were able to identify. Because at the beginning, there were also people who were... we weren't able to identify everyone right away, from the start. This information was continuously communicated, and people are still being supported today. But it's also clear, and I think we can all understand this, that in the very difficult situation of this disaster, it was hard for everyone to get information, especially precise information. The main mission, both for the emergency services, for the local responders and the hospitals, was first and foremost to save these people, So it took some time to also get consolidated information, even on the clinical level, as we say, as we always want with our patients. But we must not overlook this aspect, and I think that's an important point.
The questions grow louder by the hour. How did basic fire safety fail in one of Europe's most tightly regulated countries? Who approved the celebration? Who failed to intervene? And could lives have been saved? As investigators comb through evidence and officials promise accountability, Switzerland confronts a painful truth. This was not just an accident. It was a system put to the test, and one that may have failed when it mattered most.